Welcome to the BFF Report. I'm your host, Mike B, aka Phony, and today's show, oh, by the way, sorry, I'm not in front of my green screen and everything. My camera's right there, the battery's dead, I gotta charge it up, plus it's like 120 degrees outside in the Bay Area, and I really don't feel like standing in front of these lights for that long. Actually, usually I do everything in one take, but really, it's just really hot in here, guys. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. So, you get this camera, which is the one I use on my Game Breaker show, Twemo, which is at gamebreaker.tv. Every Sunday at 2:30. Wow, look at the plug just flowing off like that. Anyways, today's game is going to be Vindictus, and it is an action hack-and-slash MMORPG released by Nexon. It is in closed beta, but there's no NDA anywhere that we can find. It's not in the download files or anything, so if this video ends up disappearing, then that's because the NDA just kind of magically appeared out of nowhere.
Right now, they only have 2 characters to choose from out of what looks to be 5 available classes/characters. Keep in mind, though, that choosing one of these locks you to the gender of the character. Very important. So this female melee sword and board character will always be female. After selecting your character, there's a prologue that plays at this point, which gives you a quick intro to the storyline as well as quickly familiarizes you with the controls. I posted a video to my YouTube channel with this entire scene and commentary, of course, at youtube.com/wowphony should you want to go there. Character creation is pretty good. Not the most amazing thing I've ever seen, but at the same time, the game with the best character creation has pretty much gone down in flames, so maybe that's a good thing. Here you can adjust the facial expressions, see what they look like. You can try on different armor sets to see what you look like maybe in the later levels. Some of these actually look pretty impressive. You guys scroll through these real quick, check them out. Let's see. This one here. This is awesome, first of all. I like a surfboard for a shield, really. And then this next one, what can I say? Chick's got an angry bear face for a hat. Speeding through the different variations of hairstyles here, there's lots of stuff to work with. You can imagine on the male side, you also have a lot of things to work with as well. Color, skin tone. The hair has a lot of movement to it, especially on this one right here. Woohoo! That was kind of fun. Let's see. But I'm going to go ahead and settle with the short kind of, tank girl look. And one more thing. And there we go. Okay, we're good to go. Your first main quest hub is the port town of Colon. As you can see, the design is akin to the reality overlay technology that you get from, say, Google Goggles, with the names kind of branching out and kind of in this 3D type, everything's facing you fashion. Pretty interesting design choice. There's also this navigation compass that surrounds you, pointing towards areas of interest. In this case, it's telling me to go to the mercenary outpost. And once we get inside, we see that there's a very classic RPG-style NPC interactions going on. There are no actual NPCs in Colon that you communicate with outside of this manner, which means if all the human-controlled characters were gone, this would look like a ghost town. But what this also does, it gives them flexibility. And, like, for example, let's say if some particular person had left or was out of town on some mission or something, they would simply remove the tab for that character from the screen, and that was it. There was no actual physical NPC, or virtual NPC, that would need to be moved and phased from your view versus somebody else's view. So, take with it what you will, kind of a cheap way out, or maybe it's a design choice. You decide. Your first quest is kind of a training quest, teach you all the moves, show you a couple pictures in the lower left corner. It's really kind of interesting. And then there's the loot part, which I was totally new. I had no idea how to do. And so I right click, and I finally figured out you have to actually kick the snot out of these guys in order to loot it. So that's your little loot ball there. So I guess I kicked it again for some reason. And then trying to figure out how to loot. Pull it out, bam, profit, empty bottle. Woohoo! The gameplay functions on combos, similar to what you would find in awesome games like Killer Instinct, Street Fighter, etc. Your default primary attack consists of a left click for a hack or slash, whichever you prefer, right click for a shield bash type attack, a kicking function, and of course the grabs, which opens things up to several other options. When you grab someone, you have the option of just straight punching them in the face, choke slamming them on your knee, pushing them up to a wall and burying them in it, or throw them into other nearby enemies, causing good amounts of crowd damage depending on how many mobs are nearby. Keep in mind that I'm only showing you one class, so obviously every other character is probably going to have their own combinations of moves and whatnot. The game also takes full advantage of the source engine by allowing you to interact with pretty much any item that you see laying around. So if there's a jug, pick it up and throw it. Knock down this pillar, and now there's rock chunks everywhere. I'll pick up a chunk and throw it at the dude. It kind of adds the complexity. It makes it not feel like I'm just left click, right click, roll, left click, right click, roll. Your boss fights are a little bit different than fighting everyone else. You can't necessarily grab them, but you could do things to stun them. For example, a spear throw here would make him keel over a little bit, kind of stunned by the attack. And this will buy you some time to go in there and get a few swings before he goes back into his old rotation of, like, power smash and kick and whatever it is that whatever particular boss you're fighting does. Once you lay that final blow into the boss, it kind of gets all like, da-da-da! All the different camera angles and all that. the occasional compromising position, you know. And then at the end, you get a little point summary here, which is your XP, what kind of bonuses you got, if you had a side quest you completed while you were here. My reward for this is a really crappy sweater, but that's not the point. The point here is that this is probably one of the very few times you're actually going to get an item to wear, a piece of armor or a weapon, as a quest reward. For the most part, you're going to be going to these crafters or the forge here, and you're going to have them build you something based off the mats that you collect. Now, you get mats from quest rewards or random drops from bosses or mobs throughout the game. Outside of the paper doll quest givers, the questing layout is very similar to Huxley and old Global Agenda, minus the PvP. As of right now, there is no open world, and each pier here represents a different location where there are several variations divided into your quest-specific needs. Now, this is probably my biggest gripe in beta here. The ruins, where you start out, is the only available questing area until you reach the Ice Cavern Pier, which is like level 6 or 7. The problem is that it takes 6 to 8 hours to get to level 7. Now, before the trolls start firing off their fanboy rhetoric, I'm not bitching about how long it takes to get to level 7. My primary concern is that the first several hours of gameplay take part in the exact same place. So I fired off a little bit on Twitter, just basically venting my concerns, saying that I'm kind of getting sick of doing the same thing over and over again. And somebody responded and said, remember, not only is it closed beta, but they are specifically only testing these areas right now, more later. Then he follows up with, if you were familiar with Mabinogi, you would see what they were doing. Dungeons are a big factor, but there will be a huge world. Which I hope that he's right, but if he's wrong, then, well, blame this guy. Besides experience points, you get points or credit for doing battles, which are missions. You can also add on points for completing them under specific circumstances. For example, I could do the basic quest and get 100 points, or I could do the quest plus complete it within 5 minutes and get another 25 points on top of it. In some cases, you must achieve a certain number of points in a specific quest to unlock the next step, in which case you would go back and do the battle again. Now, that's not the primary reason you'll be going back. For the most part, the repeated runs are to retrieve a specific item dropped from a boss or a mob or whatever. And like any other boss drop in any other game, it's a dice roll. And as if there weren't enough point-based systems in this game, you also earn AP for completing objectives. AP is spent on upgrading your class's abilities and unlocking new ones. You get these skills from trainers or by purchasing books. Each skill requires a certain amount of AP to be fully acquired and at times unlocking the next tier. And as far as I can tell, you can only work on one skill advancement at a time. Once you select your quest, then you go to the boat. The boat is kind of considered like the lobby area where you could either go there with your party to kind of prepare and get your stuff together and coordinate, or you could wait for other players to join you, or somebody could throw a spear at your back, whatever. Anything beyond the ruins costs tokens to actually enter the instance, so in this case, going to Hoarfrost Caverns is going to cost me 2 of these silver tokens. Now, you only hold 50 at a time, and one of the NPCs says something along the lines of they give them out at 10 o'clock on every Tuesday or something. I'm going to assume that they're going to be on the item mall as well once that gets opened up, but until then, who knows. Each instance is randomized a bit to break up the monotony some. Occasionally you'll come across these really awesome traps. Some of them aren't really traps, but like steamrollers that kind of go back and forth you have to avoid. Others are tripwire activated and require some kind of ninja feat, or maybe lobbing a brick at it, in order to pass. Check this chick out. Let's see if she knows what to do. That's not gonna work. Walk into it. Walk into it. Perfect. Now, if you're not paying attention, you can end up like I am here. You see this thing that's lifting up right now? I totally wasn't paying attention, and I hit a lever. I was standing underneath it. It sucks. Whatever. But it cost me 2 coins to get in here, and now I have to forfeit the entire thing and go back, not getting my coins back. So it's my fault I didn't have any feathers to kind of resurrect myself, and I was going alone, so no one to blame but myself, I suppose, but it still sucks. The boss and the mini-boss fights are the major highlights for me. You can solo the mini-bosses pretty easily, but the fact that you have to keep on your toes and paying attention is a huge draw. Each boss does something different and requires payment of a little ass beating to learn what their different emotes mean and how they react to characters in the proximity. Your first big boss is the Knoll Chieftain here. He wields a massive spiked mallet and also has a stunning kick that he does if you decide to pillar hump his calves. As far as strategy is concerned, if you're running solo, you can just run in big circles here and let him clear out all the trash mobs for you. But if you have a team, that's where it gets really fun because then you coordinate everything. And, well, for example, instead of lobbing chunks of concrete, one of the secondary weapons you have in your arsenal is a grapple. You can throw this at the legs of the mob and drag him around a bit while your team dishes out DPS. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it to the polar bear boss, seen here, before the end of closed beta, but from what I hear, you need something like 6 people for those fights, and later on in the game, you'll be bringing 10 or more to these raids. As far as other features in this game, there's no jump, but that's totally cool because they've replaced it with block and roll, which is actually just about as good, if not better. And then there's also the Extreme Edition in Korea, which has jump, which tells me that jump is coming. So as far as jump's argument's concerned, well, it's pretty much out the window. As far as PvP is concerned, there's no confirmed anything yet that I could find, but word on the street is going to be a capture the flag and other types of PvP arena type stuff, which I'm totally looking forward to. Again, don't forget that this game is early beta right now for us, and that means that there could be more content coming out later on. So keep an eye on Vindictus.com or hit me up at aka Mike B, and anything I find out, I'll definitely throw it back out to you guys.
Okay, so it's really important to note that this game is free to play, guys. Okay, you're not going to pay a dime for this thing until you go into the item shop. Now, there's no item shop released here that we can see, so you can kind of calculate how much money you're going to end up spending. But we kind of speculate at what points you will be needing to spend the things with the tokens, with the health pots, mats, stuff like that. Now, who knows? I'm speculating. Of course, they might release it and none of that stuff's on there. It's like, oh, I got a cool pink hat, or those red, like, furry hats that they all wear and stuff like that in Exxon. So what do you guys think? Is this a game that you guys are willing to jump into, free to play? Can't really lose anything, right? Or is it just not really your style? Let me know, comments below. Next week, we're going to be talking about Final Fantasy XIV. All this week, I'm going to be doing nothing but playing the shit out of that game. And probably not really getting it, to be honest. And I hope I do it justice, and I hope I do you guys justice by giving it a fair and honest review. Unbiased, of course. No jump.